Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, give us my chol, give a smile. Give us my chol, give us my chol, be the reason someone smiles. Siva gedola, lio lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio 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 besimcha. Be the reason someone smiles. 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 Siva gedola, lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio lio besimcha. Siva gedola, lio besimcha. Someone smile. The reason someone smile. The reason someone smile. The reason someone smile. The reason someone smile.
And gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Breakfast with Elli.
Mode ani lefanecha melech chai v'kayam shechezarta bi nishmati b'chemla raba emunatecha.
Hey, מורנו ורבנו, מלך המשיח לעולם. איי 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 איי
Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Ellie. It is Thursday. Can you believe that? The 11th day of January. Can you believe that? The first day of the new month of Shevat. Rosh Chodesh. The Torah portion is Vaera, and I appeared. HaYom Yom Chamishi l'Shabbos, the fifth day, counting up towards Shabbos, and we will be learning the fifth Aliyah today. Rosh Chodesh Shevat. Oh my goodness, we have so much to talk about. The whole world is falling apart, and we need to talk about that a little bit. So let's make our brachot so we can do that. All right, men and boys.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat tzitzit.
All right, fantastic. The bracha al divrei Torah. Everyone, please say that together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al divrei Torah.
All right, Hareini Mikabel.
הריני מקבל עלי מצוות עשה של ואהבת לרעך כמוך. I take upon myself every single day to love my fellow friend in a very special way.
All right, Torah Tziva.
Torah ציווה לנו משה מורשה קהילת יעקב. תורה ציווה לנו משה מורשה קהילת יעקב.
Right, time to give tzedakah. Let's do it.
I put it in the pushki, that's a tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, that's a tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else to keep. Yeah, I put it in the pushki, that's a tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki, that's a tzedakah box. I put it in the pushki for someone else in need.
And that takes us to the time. Hold on 1 second. All right, that's good. Yes, here we go. All right. Shema coming up. Right hand over your eyes. All right, I've got my coffee and I've got my yogurt, and I'm ready to make a bracha shahakol. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shahakol nihiyah bidvaro. Oh, that's interesting. Got a new flavor here. Bananas. Seriously. Banana flavored coffee. That's an interesting choice.
Coffee, blessed coffee. God bless you for being a friend. When the whole world turns on me, it's only you on which I can depend. I want to taste you in the morning and a few times throughout the day. Yes, a cup or two in the evening too. For me, it's the only way. Yeah.
All right. And that, of course, takes us to today in Jewish history. All right. Being that it is Rosh Chodesh Shevat, it is a good thing to read the Rebbe's letter for Rosh Chodesh. I'll put that up on the screen for you. I hope you can see that. I hope you can read that. Here we go. To members of the community, the Tamimim, and all those who are bound or in any way connected with my revered father-in-law of the saintly Rebbe of blessed memory. Greeting and God bless you all. Greeting and blessing. In response to the many requests for a detailed schedule of the upcoming 10th day of Shevat, Yud Shevat, very important day, the yahrzeit of my revered father-in-law, the Rebbe, Hareini Kaparis Mishkavoy, I hereby suggest the following. On the Shabbos, before the yahrzeit, everyone should try to be called to the Torah for an Aliyah. If there are not enough Aliyahs, the Torah should be read a number of times in different rooms. However, no additions should be made to the number of Aliyahs per reading. In other words, you can start the Parsha from the beginning, go to the end, and then start again from the beginning. Or you can call multiple people to the Torah all at once. The one who is honored with maftir should be the most respected congregant as determined by the majority. Alternatively, the choice may be redeemed by a drawing, a lottery. The congregation should choose someone to lead the prayers on the day of the yahrzeit. It is proper to divide the honor, choosing one person to lead the evening service, a second to lead the morning service, and a third the afternoon service. In this way, a greater number of community members will have this privilege. A yahrzeit candle should be lit so that it would burn for the entire 24 hours. If possible, a beeswax candle. 5 candles should be lit throughout the prayer service. Excuse me. After each prayer service in the morning and the afternoon, following the reading of Psalms, the one leading the prayer should study, or at least conclude the study of the following selections from the Mishnah, and he goes into detail over there. And if you'd like more, contact me. After Mariv, part of the discourse, the mimer called Basi Lagani, which the Rebbe released for the day of his passing, should be recited from memory. If there's no one to do this from memory, it should be studied from within the text. This should be continued after the morning service and after the afternoon service. Before the morning service, a chapter of Tanya should be studied, and it should also be done after Mincha. Tzedakah should be given in the morning before prayer to causes associated with our leader, my revered father-in-law of saint's memory. Donations made on behalf of oneself and behalf of each member of one's family. The same should be done before Mincha. After the morning service, the recitation of the Mimer Basilagani, each individual should read a pan, a pidyon nefesh. A pidyon nefesh is a letter that you write to the Rebbe asking for pidyon, the redemption nefesh of your soul. Those who have had the privilege of being received by the Rebbe in a private audience, or at least seeing his face, should envision themselves standing before him when reading this pidyon nefesh. Afterwards, it should be placed between the pages of a discourse, a mimer, or other pamphlet of the Rebbe's teachings, and sent to be read by his graveside at the Ohel. In the course of the day, one should study chapters of the Mishnah that begin with the Rebbe's name. In the course of one day, one should participate in a Hasidic gathering, a Verbringen. One should set aside time to which to tell one's family about the Rebbe, about the spiritual tasks at which he toiled throughout his life. And people to whom this task is appropriate should speak at synagogues and houses of study in their cities and cite a saying or an adage from the Rebbe's teaching, explain how he loved every Jew, and make known and explain the practice that he instituted of reciting the Psalms every day, the daily portions of Chumash, Tehillim, and Tanya. And people should visit centers of observant youth. In a neighborly spirit, make every endeavor to visit centers for young people who are not yet observant in order to explain to them the great love that the Rebbe had for them. It should be explained to these people what the Rebbe expected from them, his hope for them, and the trust that he placed in them that they will ultimately fulfill the task of strengthening Judaism and disseminating the study of Torah with the energy, warmth, and vitality that characterizes youth. If prevailing conditions allow, this should be continued during the days following the yahrzeit, and particularly on the following Shabbos. May Hashem hasten the coming of our Redeemer, and then those who dwell in the dust will awaken and rejoice, and our Nasi, our leader, whose yahrzeit we are observing among them, give us his wondrous tidings and lead along the path that leads to the house of Hashem. Signed by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. I know, right? What an amazing letter. And we'll read that again coming up. All right? All right, fantastic. Yeah, so we have done that. We have accomplished what we set out to do with that. Now I've got to tell you something else, and I'm not thrilled about it. So give me 1 minute over here. I just got to make sure that this does its thing. All right. You know what's going on. You're not blind, deaf, and dumb. If you live in America, you've heard about it. There was a break-in at 770 Eastern Parkway, the Rebbe's Shul. I don't know how to put it any other way. I've got some videos about it, and I think that's where I'm gonna go with this. Know that this is not something I relish doing. I normally would not speak about this. I don't like to air dirty laundry, but it has hit the mainstream media, and so I need to address it. Let's start.
I'm sure by now you've all seen that. So what's what's going on over here. I'm definitely insulted and hurt and furious, actually, about what happened here, because this building, I had the merit of actually growing up in this holy building 770. The holy Lubavitcher Rebbe made great gatherings here where he spoke words of Torah, deep insights into the Kabbalah. So the walls are infused and saturated with holiness and memories. To see them being brutally ripped off is very painful. There are rotten apples everywhere. There are extremists in every group. Do not for 1 second take what's happening here and think that this is the real deal. Now, they talk about tunnels. During COVID, everything was shut down, and some boys are so spiritually devoted to this commandment that no authority would ever tell them to stop going to the spiritual mikveh bath. So they actually, because there's a bathhouse that's right near this building that was closed, they dug a hole underneath so that they can ritually purify themselves. I'm not saying that's a great thing. I'm saying that's actually going against the authority, which is a terrible thing. But that's where the tunnel comes from. From there, they wanted to expand because the expansion has been talked about for so long. But because the building is in contest right now, if that is even a word, who actually owns the building since the death of the rabbi, the head rabbi, in 1994, some parties and leadership hold that the expansion should go on. Let's expand. And they don't have time or the patience for the permits. And some say absolutely not. But barbaric, destroying, and any type of violence is totally condemned by anyone who has a half a brain. I definitely qualify for a half a brain, I would say.
So, since that video came out, we've learned some more. This was not necessarily a group of boys looking to go to the mikveh. As Moshe said, this was a group of boys, unsupervised, mostly Israeli students who come here from Israel to study in the courtyard of the Rebbe. And even though the Rebbe is no longer physically with us, spiritually, we all believe, spiritually he is around, and spiritually he is there to guide us. And they want to make sure that the Rebbe's words are fulfilled. And the Rebbe did want an expansion. It just didn't happen while the Rebbe was alive. And now that the Rebbe is no longer with us, and there is some contention about who is exactly in charge of the building of 770, the actual synagogue building. The expansion never actually happened. All right, here's a little bit more.
What's going on? I didn't want to bring light to the situation, but since it's out there, let's discuss. 770 Eastern Parkway is Chabad headquarters. It's the synagogue of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, where so many Chabadniks were inspired to go and spread Judaism around the world. Today in 770, there's a small group, a rowdy group. Some members of this group decided to expand the synagogue without any permission, without any permits, and dug out a whole section from the basement next door for their attempt of expanding the synagogue. When repair groups were called to repair the damage, they stood in the way in protest. The authorities were called and they were forcefully removed. It's an embarrassment for the Chabad movement. It's a destruction of holy space. Please God, going forward, we could focus on more important things like the light, the love, and the joy of Judaism that Chabad spreads around the world.
Now, the Rebbe was very meticulous about the shul. And there was an incident when the Rebbe was davening from the Amud. He was leading the services, and he saw a piece of paper on the floor. And this was the Rebbe's reaction to that. Let me see if I can get that to come up because it's... So you can see that even a little piece of paper on the floor bothered the Rebbe to the point where he was upset. You could hear it in his voice. So what do we need to do? What can you and I do? We're not there. We're not actively involved. What can be done?
Good morning. I just wanted to say a few words about this fiasco that happened yesterday in 770. And my point is not to put down anyone, but rather to explain to the Jewish world, the world that we live in, and the greater Jewish world, the world that I write about in so many of the works, the YU world, the modern Orthodox world, the Hasidic world, the Litvish world, the Sephardic world, that 770 is a holy place. The Frierdiker Rebbe was there, the Rebbe was there. It's a holy place. The fact that there are some individuals, and particularly some younger individuals, Bacharim, who can do such things, it's because of the unfortunate chinuch education that they got from youth, and it's wrong. And the only ones to blame are their educators, no one else. And the other people who are to blame are the leaders of our community, the Rabbanim, the Merkez Linyonei Chinuch, everyone's to blame. Why? Because they don't take things into control. They let people do what they want. I mean, there's too much to discuss here, but the yeshiva, the administration wants these boys here because they want to fill their base medrash and they want them to do activities, which is all, I understand. You have a big shul, you want an ongoing institution, get people, you need people. These are the people, but the fact that some of these people come with these false ideas and ridiculous ideas of all kinds to the point of making tunnels and destroying a shul and all of that, it's all a result of a breakdown in leadership. We, the world community of Yiddishkeit, of Frumkeit, from all communities, and as some have already said and written, we stand strong with the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Alter Rebbe, the Balatanya, and these are truisms. So every one of us should put the focus on that, not the focus on, one incident here, one incident there. That they need to deal with, and hopefully they will deal with it. And if we put the focus on the truth of Chabad, the value of Chabad, what the Balatanya gave us, and what the Rebbe gave us, and what the Rebbe gives us now, and how Yidden from all over the world flock to his holy Tzion, and come to 770 as well, and learn Chassidus, and do mitzvahs, and reach out, and do shlichus, and everything else. This all is true, and this should be the focus. So let's not get caught up and say, "Oh, I told you so." We don't need you to tell us, "I told you so." We know I told you so ourselves. What we need is to educate our youth in the right way, and that comes from the educators and the leaders. So my message to everyone is leadership. Either you do what you need to, or get out of the kitchen. If it's too hot in the kitchen, out. Okay, change leadership, change the control, because somehow you're not doing it properly. You're creating this monster, and if it means firing heads and getting rid of people, so be it. There's no other way. If you need to close 770 for a week, chas v'sholem, to get this all corrected, fine. That's not. I'm not here to tell, and I don't know, and I don't want to know. what should be done. But all I know is that the focus needs to be on the holiness of 770, on the holiness of the Chabad movement. And this is here. And if we were to take a moment and learn a chapter in Tanya, a line in Tanya, a thought in Tanya, and think about it, all of this is just an opportunity for something greater. Have a great day, and I hope that this will be sooner than later with the coming of Mashiach. Amen now.
I am so sorry that I had to waste our time with this. So, as a present to us, we're going to go out with a little levity.
Shalom Aleichem, it's Yoeli here at Yoeli News Network, breaking for you the updates of broken news. People asking, what's the geschehen with the tunnels in Crown Heights? Azoy geht es, I'm going to explain you out. A few boys tried making tunnel, not for smuggling arms, not for trafficking people, to get from the mikveh, the spiritual bath, all the way to Chamishi, into the synagogue. In Gaza, they made tunnels. They dug tunnel underneath the school. They dug tunnel underneath the hospital. Underneath the house, they dug a tunnel, and all the civilians heist them zooked. I didn't hear nothing. I never saw nothing. Okay, in Crown Heights, not even 5 minutes, they're making this tunnel. The neighbors come downstairs. Hello, you have a permit? No. They call the police, take them away right away. Okay. Shikoyach to Lubavitch for reminding us that when someone's digging a tunnel under your house, you know someone's digging a tunnel under your house. This is Yoeli reminding you, sei gesinnt, sei gesund, but most important, sei besimcha.
I thought you would like that. I liked it. So if I like it, you should like it. HaYom for today, Rosh Chodesh.
היום הזה הוא זמן שמחתנו, שמע את התפילה שבליבנו, ותמחול את כל עוונותינו ביום הזה.
All right, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the season of Kor, extreme cold, begins today. Basically, the Talmud tells us that today is the first day of winter as a season, the first day of Shevat. Now, after being warned by Moshe Rabbeinu, the Egyptians were hit with the 8th plague of Arba, locusts, on this day. And it was in the 40th year, in the 11th month, on the first of the month, that Moshe spoke to the children of Israel. That was today, in the year 2489. Hashem allowed Moshe Rabbeinu to see the Holy Land from a mountaintop. On this day, as the Jewish people were completing 40 years of wandering in the desert, Moshe convened the Jewish people and began the 37-day recital of Mishnah Torah, the last book of Torah, Deuteronomy, which is considered his farewell address to the Jews. And that continued until he passed away on the 7th day of Adar. Also during this time, Moshe wrote 13 Torah scrolls, one for each tribe and one to be placed in the ark. According to one opinion, King Saul and his sons were killed during the war in Gilboa. The Jews were expelled from Genoa, Italy on this day in 1598. And today is the beginning in 1882 of the Bilu movement, the Beis Yaakov Lechu V'Nelcha movement in Soviet Russia. The movement was formed by Russian students of the University of Kharkov, creating their own group which called for the active colonization of Israel. And that was in 1882. Can you imagine? All right. While not as well known as the month of Tishrei or Nisan, in which we celebrate the high holidays and Pesach, Shevat is a month rich in symbolism and meaning. And I'm going to tell you 8 facts about the month of Shevat. It is the 11th month of Torah. In Torah, it's considered the 11th month. The Torah doesn't give names to the months of the year. Instead, it calls Nisan the month of spring, the first month. So counting from Nisan, that makes Shevat the 11th month. The name first appears in the book of Zechariah and is believed to be a word on loan from the ancient Akkadian language, related to the word lashing. The name refers to the heavy rains of the season as winter draws to a close. Rain, in Jewish tradition, is tied with blessing. The sign for the month of Shevat is Aquarius, the water bearer. And this further ties Shevat to the rainy season, reflecting the biblical verse that water will flow from his well. Shafte mayim bisason. Shafte, Shevat. Shevat is well known as the month of Tu B'Shvat, the new year of trees. But according to the Mishnah, there's an opinion that the new year should be celebrated on the first of the month, not the 15th. The month of Shevat was when Moshe prayed for the passing, for his passing in the following month of Adar, on the 7th of Adar. He took this opportunity to rebuke the children of Israel, as recorded in Deuteronomy. Out of honor for the Jewish people, Moshe saved these words of rebuke and heartful criticism until just right before he passed away. Now, the Medrash explains that Moshe spent the entire month of Shevat translating the Torah into the 70 major languages then spoken. This teaches an incredible, important issue. Each and every one of us has a connection to the Torah, even one who cannot read it in its original tongue. Now, two significant episodes in the life of our Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson of righteous memory, took place in the month of Shevat. The 10th of Shevat, Yud Shevat, is both the date when his father-in-law passed away, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Schneerson of Lubavitch, the 6th Lubavitcher Rebbe. He passed away in the year 1950, and the date a year later when the current Lubavitcher Rebbe assumed leadership of the movement. The 22nd of Shevat is the day that the Rebbe's wife, Rebbe Tzimchaya Mushka, passed away. Now, we don't know who gave the month this special acrostic, but the word Shvat can stand for the Hebrew expression Shenishma B'Soros Toves, that we should be blessed to hear good tidings. All right. Many have the observances to mark custom to mark Rosh Chodesh with a festive meal and reduced work activity. We say the Musaf, the Rosh Chodesh Musaf. We add Yalav Yavo to our prayers and into our benching. If you need more information on the laws of the month of Shevat, go to Chabad.org or contact me. HaYom Yom for today, the 1st of Shevat.
There are three chefs: the chef who shares recipes, the chef who does not, and the evil guy who shares recipes but intentionally distorts them so that he's the only guy who can successfully prepare this dish. Which type are you? If you've got a great idea, do you want the monopoly, or are you happy to share with others? It was the habit of the Rebbe to address letters to the sons and daughters of Israel wherever they may be. Because if the Rebbe had a great Jewish idea, he wanted to share that idea with every single Jew under the sun. Today's HaYom Yom are the words of the previous Rebbe of Chabad. Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak is writing about the practice of reciting a portion of Tehillim every morning, a portion of Psalms, after prayers. It was never the previous Rebbe's intention that this become an elite practice of a select segment of the Jewish population. Says today's HaYom, the daily recital of Tehillim after davening apply equally to Chabad Hasidic shuls and to those who follow the Ashkenazic or Polish traditions. On account of Ahavat Yisrael, love of our fellow, and especially in view of the importance of saying Tehillim with a minyan, this practice affecting all of Israel, both materially and spiritually, we must endeavor with every means possible that it become an established practice in every shul of every tradition. So if you've got something important and meaningful to share, get out there and share it with the world.
All right. And now that takes us to studying for Yud Shvat, Basi Lagani, the Mimer Basi Lagani, which we are privileged. Part 16.
Good morning. Let's begin with Perek Yud Dalet of our Mimer, chapter 14. So the previous Rebbe continues his discussion on the Oire Ein Sof, the divine light, and how it is concealed, as we were talking yesterday. And he begins by saying that even though the Oire Ein Sof is concealed, the divine energy, the divine light is concealed, nevertheless we find it written in Nehemiah, Perek Tes, it says, you give life to them all. So the question can be asked, if the divine light is concealed, how can it still give life to everything? And the Rebbe cites Tanya, Igeris HaKodesh, Perek Chaf, where the Alter Rebbe writes, a reflection of the radiation of Hashem's light is found in all beings that were created, formed, and made. Now, this light is drawn up into the highest levels equally, and drawn all the way down into the lowest levels. The Rebbe cites the pasuk, if I soar up to the heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in the abyss, behold, you are there. It's similar to the Chabad Nigun that we teach children, that goes based on the We Want Mashiach Now, that's called Hashem is here, Hashem is there. Hashem is here, Hashem is there, Hashem is near, really everywhere. And we say that if you look left, right, up, down, and all around, Hashem is there. And that's essentially what the Rebbe is saying here. Now, the cognizance of this light, this life energy that radiates to the highest heights and the lowest depths, should lead us to a meditation, a reflection, a contemplation of Hashem's greatness, as described in Tanya Perek Mem Aleph, chapter 41. As complex as that sounds, the previous Rebbe says that this type of reflection or contemplation or meditation, whichever term we want to use, is within the reach of every single human being. And what it does, when we contemplate this, it arouses a huge awakening within our soul, what the Rebbe calls a tumultuous reaction. Now, the descent of the light and its enclosement in the kalim of the worlds comes about because the Oid Ein Sof is infinite, and it has no bounds, it has no limits, has no mitzriim. Nor does it have gvulim, which are borders, boundaries. And as I said before, the light is drawn up equally and down equally. It doesn't change. Even at the lowest level, the essence of the Oid does not change. The only thing that changes, according to the previous Rebbe, is the lower level of the light, called koyach, or strength, or power. So, in other words, the light may be dimmer at a lower level, but it is still there, and it is still pervading the atmosphere and giving the same energy. Now, the change in koyach is affected by the kalim, which enclose the vessels which enclose the Oid Ein Sof when it descends through the worlds of Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiya, although this enclosement does not happen in the world of Atzilus. Now, the aspect of the light called Oid, which here we're talking about not the power of the light, but the light itself, is completely unchanged regardless of what level, what world, what depth, or what height it penetrates. This concept is explained and elucidated on the Zohar's commentary on the pasuk, "There is none holier than Hashem." The Zohar says that there are many levels of holiness, but there is no level as holy as Hashem himself. Hashem can never change. He is never affected. His essence, regardless of where it penetrates, since it penetrates everything from the highest height to the lowest depths and all around, his etzem, his very essence, or as we call it in Kabbalah, the Atzmas Hashem, is utterly and completely unaffected. So too, therefore, is the Oid Ein Sof, which is a reflection of Hashem himself. That's it for Perek Yud Dalet. We will continue Be'ezrat Hashem tomorrow with Perek Tes Vav and Tes Zayin, the pre-recorded Perek Tes Zayin for Shabbos. Have a wonderful day. We will see you back here tomorrow.
All right, fantastic. And now we'll be right back after this. And now, a word from our sponsors. PestProRidall.com.
PestProRidall.com. Trusted by the best to keep away the pests. We are offering COVID-19 disinfection services. Mention this ad and get 1 month free service. Visit us at PestProRidall.com.
Tarzane Group, micro, miniature, and small orchids. Go to tarzanegroup.com or call Tomas at 305-440-0565. That's 305-440-0565. And order today. Visit Tomas and Yair at tarzanegroup.com. Micro, miniature, and small orchids. Beautiful in your home. Go to the website and read Tomas's orchid blog. And by Dina D Design. DinaDDesign@gmail.com. Fine artwork, custom made to your specifications. Logos, wall hangings, Judaica, and You can even have something for your child's room. Dina D Designs. Go to her Facebook or Instagram or call or text. Thank you very much to our sponsors. If you'd like to become a sponsor, please go right up here to where it says patreon.com/theactorsrabbi, and you can contribute even only $1 a month if you'd like, but that'll help us bring this broadcast to you on a daily basis and cover our expenses. Be sure to thank your sponsors when shopping and mention Breakfast with Ellie when you're shopping there. There might be discounts. Thanks for watching.
Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
All right. Patreon.com/theactorsrabbi or breakfastwithellie.live/newcomputer to help us. Just to help us. Okay. All right. It is Thursday. From under the water over here, we are doing Rabbi Sachs's Covenant and Conversation. Yep, here we go.
The parasha of Vaera begins with some fateful words. It wouldn't be too much to say that they changed the course of history because they changed the way people thought about history. In fact, they gave birth to the very idea of history. Listen to the words. God said to Moses, I am Hashem. I appeared to Avram, to Yitzchak, and to Yaakov as Kel Shaddai, but by my name, Hashem, I did not make myself fully known to them. What exactly does this mean? As Rashi points out, it doesn't mean that Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Leah didn't know God by the name of Hashem. To the contrary, God's first words to Abraham, leave your land, your birthplace, and your father's house, were said using the name Hashem. It even says just a few verses later, Vaera Hashem el Avram. Hashem appeared to Abraham and said, to your descendants I will give this land. So God had appeared to Avram as Hashem. And in the very next verse, it says that Avram built an altar and called on the name of Hashem. So Avram himself knew the name and had used it. Yet it's clear from what God says to Moses that something new is about to happen, a divine revelation of a kind that had never happened before, something that no one, not even the people closest to God, had yet seen. What was it? The answer is that through Bereshit, God is the God of creation, the God of nature, the aspect of God we call, with different nuances, but roughly the same sense, Elokim, or Kel Shaddai, or even Koneh Shamayim Va'aretz, creator of heaven and earth. Now, in a sense, that aspect of God was known to everyone in the ancient world. It's just that they didn't see nature as the work of one God, but of many. The God of the sun, the God of the rain, the goddesses of the sea and the earth, the vast pantheon of forces responsible for harvest, fertility, storms, droughts, and so on. There were profound differences between the gods of polytheism and myth and the one God of Abraham, but they operated, as it were, in the same territory, the same ballpark. The aspect of God that appears in the days of Moses and the Israelites is radically different. And it's only because we're so used to the story that we find it hard to see how radical it was. For the first time in history, God was about to get involved in history. Not through natural disasters like the flood, but direct interaction with the people who shape history. God was about to appear as the force that shapes the destiny of nations. He was about to do something no one had ever heard of before. Bring an entire nation from slavery and servitude, persuade them to follow him into the desert and eventually to the promised land, and there build a new kind of society based not on power, but on justice, welfare, respect for the human person, and on collective responsibility for the rule of law. God was about to initiate a new kind of drama and a new concept of time. According to many historians like Arnaldo Momigliano, Yosef Chaim Yerushalmi, J.H. Plum, Eric Vogelin, and the anthropologist Mircea Eliade, at that moment, history was born. Until then, the basic human drama was struggling to maintain order against the ever-present threat of chaos, whether through natural disasters, foreign conquest, or internal power struggles. Success meant maintaining the status quo. In fact, religion in the ancient world was intensely conservative. It was about teaching people the inevitability of the status quo. Time was an arena in which nothing fundamentally changed. And now God appears to Moses and tells him that something utterly new is about to occur, something the patriarchs knew about in theory but never lived to see in practice: a new nation, a new kind of faith, a new kind of political order, a new type of society. God was about to enter into history and set the West on a trajectory that no human beings had ever contemplated before. Time was no longer going to be simply what Plato beautifully called the moving image of eternity. It was about to become the stage on which God and humanity would journey together toward the day when all human beings, regardless of class, color, creed, or culture, would achieve their full dignity as the image and likeness of God. Religion was about to become not a conservative force, but an evolutionary and even revolutionary one. Think about this. Long before the West, the Chinese had invented ink, paper, printing, porcelain, manufacture, the compass, gunpowder, and many other technologies. But they failed to develop a scientific revolution, an industrial revolution, a market economy, a free society. Why did they get so far and then stop? The historian Christopher Dawson argued that it was the religion of the West that made the difference. Alone among the civilizations of the world, Europe, he said, has been continually shaken and transformed by an energy of spiritual unrest. He attributed this to the fact that its religious ideal has not been the worship of timeless and changeless perfection, but a spirit that strives to incorporate in itself inhumanity and to change the world. To change the world. That is the key phrase. The idea that together with God we can change the world, make history, and not just be made by it. That was born when God told Moses that he and his contemporaries were about to see an aspect of God no one had ever seen before. And I still find that a spine-tingling moment when each year we read Vaera and recall the moment that history was born, the moment God entered history and taught us for all time that slavery, oppression, injustice are not written into the fabric of the cosmos or engraved into the human condition. Things can be different because we can be different, because God has shown us how. Shabbat Shalom.
Wowie, 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 wow. Brilliant words. Brilliant, brilliant words. All right, in the fifth Aliyah, Moshe prays to Hashem, and all the frogs died. Egypt reeked from the odor of the rotting frogs, and Pharaoh reneged on his promise. Plague 3. Aaron smote the earth with his staff, and swarms of lice attacked Egypt, covering man and beast. Even Pharaoh's magicians were amazed by this and informed Paro, Etzba Elohimhu, this is the finger of God. No effect. Plague 4, Hashem dispatched Moshe to warn Paro that his land would be infected by a mixture of noxious animals. Only the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, would be spared. Telling you, you got to be careful. We angered God. You don't want to do that. Chumash and Rashi with Rabbi Avtson. I think he'll explain a little bit more. All right, sorry about that. That takes us to Parsha points for today. Are you ready?
Parsha points Vaera Thursday closely, and you'll see that the first three plagues seem to have whammied the Jews too. It's only the fourth one that explicitly spares Bnei Yisrael. The first three were about destroying Egyptian superiority, something some Jews may have been enamored by and needed some reprimand from. The fourth plague, the mixed multitude of animals, is where Hashem emphasized the need for the Jews to remain separate. The Jews had to be spared. We must remain a nation alone.
All right. Shnayim Yomi for today.
Vaera Chamishi. So now we start with the Makkah. We're ending off with Tzvardeya, and we're starting with Kinim. By Kinim, until now, the Chatumim of Mitzrayim, the sorcerers, they didn't believe that Moshe and Aaron were God sent. They believed that they were also sorcerers. So everything they tried imitating. When it came to the Kinim, they said Etzba Lekimi, because they weren't able to copy making the Makkah of Kinim. Because I'll say a shade that brings things through witchcraft can't bring something less than a piece of barley. So since the Kinim were smaller than that, they couldn't do it. So they understood it was Hashem. I think I saw in a Sefer Vayem Avram, a nice rem is Etzba Lekim. Etzba is Rosh Tevis Ein Tzarech B'dika Oid. We don't need to look into it anymore. It's clear as day. This is Hashem's doing. By the beginning of Makkah's Orov, Pasuk Yud Zayin, it says Umolu Batei Mitzrayim Es HaOrov V'gam HaAdoma Shehem Aleo. That the Orov is going to be everywhere. They're going to go into the houses. They're going to destroy everything. V'gam ha'adama shehem aleh. The Pashup Pshat is they're going to, besides being in the houses, they're going to be all over the land. But the Sfarim say that there's a deeper meaning included in these words, v'gam ha'adama shehem aleh, that take, let's say, a polar bear. A polar bear, if you take him out of his habitat, let's say he needs minus 20 degrees Fahrenheit, otherwise he can't live. So when Hashem brought all the different species of the world, all the destructive animals, he brought a polar bear as well. A polar bear can't exist in Mitzrayim. So Hashem brought with the polar bear, around the polar bear was his habitat. It was minus 20. But then you have the African lion that needs to be plus 90. So that's why later on in Pasuk Chaf it says, Tishaches ha'aretz mipnei ha'arev. The earth itself was destroyed because any crops that you're trying to grow, if you have such a big swing in temperatures and climate, it'll destroy everything. In a lot of different farms, there's a Sefer Kehilas Yaakov, 3 volumes on Torah Tzalikus. He brings over there from different Mefarshim, well, they all bring rayas from Shas of how the animal needs its habitat. There's a Gemara in Eruvin on Daf Samach Aleph. It says that if you take a dog out of its natural habitat, it's not going to bark for 7 years. Hashem wanted the dogs to be as menacing as possible, so he brought with them their habitat. The Gemara in Saita brings over there that a bear normally, if it's not near the forest where it has the ability to escape back into it, it won't attack. So Hashem brought with the bears, there were forests following the bears that they were able to attack and then run back into the forest. And the Gemara in Moed Katan on Daf Vav brings that if you take some dirt from a different anthole and you sprinkle it into a different a separate anthole, all the ants in that anthole they'll get all misbalbel from not having they smell that this is not their home. So Hashem B'Kitzur wanted all the animals to feel right at home in Mitzrayim. So v'gam ha'adama shehem oleho, he brought with them. Not only were they going to go into Mitzrayim, he also brought the land at which they occupied. And that takes us to Shishi.
All right. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Let us go to Rabbi Michael Kigel.
How warm is your blood?
This guy's serious? Yeah, 37 degrees serious.
Celsius.
Don't
go away. I'm not going away, guys.
What's going on? You heard us?
Yes, folks, I heard you, but did you hear my question?
He's got telepathy!
I picked it up.
as an undergrad. Oh, cool. That's pretty cool. Are you serious about your question? I mean, you know our blood doesn't go above 35 degrees Celsius.
That's like what? 85 degrees Fahrenheit?
95 degrees. I never go above 25 degrees myself, man.
So this is why I wanted to ask you guys in particular. I have a question about the 10 plagues, you know, in Egypt.
Oh, the second plague. I love the second plague.
Frogs.
Frogs here, frogs there.
Frogs everywhere. Yuck.
No, actually, the first plague.
Blood, yeah.
In the first plague, the Nile was turned to blood.
Blood? 37-degree blood? Pretty warm.
That's just it. The Nile needed to be warmed up.
Wait, who's making coffee?
Coffee.
The Nile needed to be warmed up because by nature, water is cold, and coldness is the opposite of holiness.
Coldness is...
The opposite.
Holiness.
Cold. The Nile was cold?
The Nile was the opposite of holiness.
The Nile?
Remember, in Egypt, the Nile was a god.
Idolatry. The Nile was like an idol.
A fluid idol? So the Nile was the opposite of holiness.
The Nile wasn't just a god. The Nile represented the coldness of all idolatry, apathy to true godliness.
That's why God warmed it up with warm blood.
Holiness is vital. It's alive. Excitement. Excitement about godliness.
Holy is the Lord of hosts.
So the first thing about Egypt that had to be broken, smashed like an idol, was its idolatrous coldness.
The Nile.
The wonders with which Hashem wanted to overwhelm the Egyptian idolatry was not just a matter of power. Hashem wanted to show that Judaism is warmer than idolatry, a warm, living love for God.
So God wanted to warm up Egypt?
Warm up Egypt? You know how hot it is in Egypt?
Well, you can.
Yes, you're cold-blooded.
Keep in mind that Egyptian idolatry is something to which the Israelites had capitulated.
Egyptianized. Assimilated.
Reptilized.
Assimilated.
The children of Israel suffered from a spiritual cold-bloodedness and had to be warmed up.
With warm blood.
37 degrees.
The first step down into Egypt is doing God's will without alacrity, without warmth, simply as a matter of cold ritual. That's the essence of spiritual bondage and exile.
And the first step up out of Egypt?
Obviously, to doing God's will with a little enthusiasm. From cold Nile to warm blood.
Undergrad, seriously.
Undergrad.
Cool.
Warm.
Very, very cool. All right. And that takes us to Tehillim. We're running way behind today. Sorry about that. All right. Chapters 23 and 122.
מזמור לדוד, אדוני רואי, לא אחסר, בינוס תשע, ירביצני, על מי מנוחוס ינהלני, נפשי שובב, ינחני ומעגלי צדק, למען שמו, גם כי לך בגץ על מובס, לא ירא, כי אתה עמדי, שבטך ומשענתך, המה ינחמוני, תערוך לפניי שולחן נגד צורריי, תשענת בשמן ראשי, כוסי רוויה, אך טוב וחסד ירדפוני. כל ימי חיי ושבתי בביס אדוני לאורך ימים.
שמע לו ישראל ושמחתי וימנמני ויסעלינו ינאי אוים דויסו יורה עלינו בשורייך ירושלים ירושלים הבנויה כאיש אחור לא יחדל ששמו שותים שפטי העדות לישראל להוידויס לשם עלינו כי שם ישבו חיזויס במשפט כי זייס לבייס דוד שאלו שלוי
ladies and gentlemen, I present you Tanya for today.
Tanya thoughts for the first day of Shevat. Learning is disruptive, not the data accumulation type of learning. That's just memorizing all the state capitals. The Tanya is talking about Chachma, the willingness to be amazed, to be genuinely receptive to a whole new idea, one not predicated on what I already know. That's real learning, and it's enabled by vulnerability. To get outside of my comfort zone, Koach Ma. That's the anagram of Chachma. The path to Hashem is not just more information, it's the willingness to be amazed.
Let's talk Tanya for the first of Shvat of a leap year. In yesterday's Tanya, the Alter Rebbe introduced the pasuk, the verse from Malachi, "Ushaftem uri'isem ben sadik l'rasha, ben ovid elikim lasher lo yavadeh," which means that there will come a time when we'll be able to sit back and discern the difference between the tzaddik and the rasha, the righteous person and the wicked person, and ben ovid elikim lasher lo yavadeh, between the one who serves God and the one who doesn't serve God. And as Alter Rebbe pointed out yesterday, this seems to be a redundancy, because after all, the tzaddik is the one who serves God. The rasha, the wicked person, is the one who doesn't serve God. So why is the pasuk dividing this into two, which seems to imply that there are four different levels? There's tzaddik and rasha, and then there's the one who serves God and the one who doesn't serve God. So in yesterday's Tanya, we explained the difference between the tzaddik and the one who serves God. The tzaddik, as the Alter Rebbe explained in Tanya over the last few chapters, the tzaddik is the person who is the perfect person, not only in behavior, but also inside, in terms of their feelings, their emotions, their intellect. This is a person who doesn't struggle. And the Oived Elokim, the one who serves God, is the one who is actually serving God, the one who's doing the work, because that person has not yet vanquished their animal soul, and therefore there's a lot of work to be done, and that would be the Beinoni, the one who does the right thing, but still has to work hard in order to do the right thing. But that still leaves us with the question, what is the difference between the rasha, the wicked person, and the one who doesn't serve God? So today the Alter Rebbe explains, the wicked person is the rasha, again, whom we discussed over the last while. That's someone who sins, and depending on how bad of a rasha the person is, maybe the person sins once in a while or sins more often, but that's the rasha, the person who actually fails in the area of thought, speech, and action. And then you have the lo yavadi, the one who doesn't serve God. The one who does not serve God is not a rasha, because the one who doesn't serve God never does any sins. So you're asking, if the person never sins, never fails in thought, speech, and action, why is that person called a lo yavadi? Why is that person called someone who doesn't serve God? And Dr. Rebbe says something very interesting. And that is that just because you do the right thing doesn't mean that you're serving God. Serving God, avoida, the word avoida, service, means that you're working for it. And some people, they can be doing the right thing and it doesn't require work. And why is that? Because there are some people who are intellectually inclined. They're not pleasure-driven. They actually enjoy studying Torah all the time. They're colder people. They're not so passionate. They don't look around the world with eyes filled with desire. And also you have to remember that as Jews, we have a default, what's called the Ava Misuteres. We'll be talking more about this in the later chapters. Every Jew is born with a natural hidden love for God. So therefore, the Jewish person who doesn't have this fiery animal soul that's driving him or her to doing things that are inappropriate, that person naturally will serve God because of that inner love that they have. But they can't take credit for that love. That love is something which they have as an inheritance from our forefathers. So this person, yes, they are doing the right thing practically, but they are lo yavadeh, they are not serving God. And the Alter Rebbe takes it further and says even someone who had to have done the work, a person who actually had an animal soul, which was a boisterous animal soul with a lot of demands, but ultimately the person worked, and the person has arrived at the place, we're doing the right thing, we're studying Torah, doing mitzvahs, now has become their second nature. At this point in time, this person also is not serving God, because ultimately they're right now relying on their second nature, unless the person decides to go beyond their nature and go beyond their current comfort zone. Okay, so what do we have over here? We have on one side, we have the tzaddik. That's the person who's perfect on the inside. Then we have on the other side, we have the rasha, the person who actually fails. And then in the middle, we have the servant of God and the one who isn't a servant of God. Both of those are strugglers. Both of those are beinanim. And both of those don't do anything wrong, but one of them is doing the actual internal work and one of them isn't. Now you might ask, okay, as long as the person is doing the right thing, Is it really so bad to be someone who doesn't serve God as long as practically I'm doing the right thing, I'm studying Torah, I'm doing mitzvahs? And that we're going to find out the answer to that question in tomorrow's Let's Talk Tanya.
All right. Sefer HaMitzvahs of the Rambam is up next.
No, it's not
Class
impossible that Rebbe did say.
4.
Just study Rambam each and every day.
Baruch Hashem, today is day number 264 of our daily study of Rambam Sefer Mitzvahs. And in the 3 chapters a day study track of Mishnah Torah, we just started yesterday a new book, Sefer Kinyan, the book of acquisitions. And we started Hilchos Mechira, the laws of sales. Not like sales on a boat, sales like buying and selling. So today we're learning chapters 4, 5, and 6 of those laws. And corresponding to that is our mitzvah for today, one mitzvah, and it is a repeat. I mentioned yesterday that today would be a repeat. I also said there will be many repeats when we're going through these laws. And the reason is, very simply, these laws contain a lot of detail, so it takes many chapters in Mishnah Torah to explain it, but there's not that many different mitzvahs that we're actually studying here. Okay, positive commandment 245 is the mitzvah, the positive commandment to follow Torah's guidelines, laws, rules regarding how property is transferred from one owner to another. Now, yesterday, I spoke about the idea that when you're purchasing a movable object, biblically, it's enough to just give money for it. But rabbinically, one should actually pick it up. It's called mashicha. Pull the object toward you. Take it in hand. What if we're dealing with real estate, which we call karka in Torah law? Karka literally means the ground itself. What if we're selling a piece of ground, a piece of land? So then it's obviously not possible to pick it up in your hand. So how does it transfer ownership? There are different views on this. In our day and age, it is virtually unheard of that somebody should just buy property with cash and it's just an oral contract between the buyer and seller. There's something called a deed. So in Torah law, that documentation, what's called a shtar in rabbinic discourse, that would be a way of effectively transferring the ownership. Also, there's a concept called chazaka. What is chazaka? Chazaka is a very common term in Jewish law. It means a presumption based on some type of evidence, usually a pattern, like something is repeated and it becomes established as a chazaka. But there are other ways of arriving at a chazaka, and particularly in our discussion, how can it be established there is a chazaka of ownership, that this property, this real estate, has transferred from the previous owner, the person that until now we thought was the owner, and it's now the property of the new owner. Who's this guy? Is this his? So one way of establishing that is something called chazaka. And how is the chazaka actually established? Well, making an improvement on the property. So let's say a guy puts a lock on the door, or let's say he makes renovations. So that's considered the act of an owner. And that would establish a chazaka. Oh, this guy is really the owner. That's the way that it's done with real estate that you can't pick up in your hand. Okay, we're going to be continuing with more mitzvahs that are related to mechira, to buying and selling. We'll see you for more, God willing, tomorrow.
Mitzvah 264.
Today we again study positive mitzvah 245, which is the Torah's general instruction that we are to obey its guidelines when it comes to buying and selling and how we effectuate transactions. One of the most basic concepts when discussing these laws is the concept of kinyan, which means acquisition. By Torah law, verbal agreement does not mean that a transaction has taken place. So if I go as a buyer to a seller and we agree just with our words, and even if there's witnesses that I will sell you this product, that does not mean that the product is sold. An act of kinyan, which the Torah recognizes as an act of acquisition, must take place, and only then does the property change hands. This applies both to real estate and to movable items. There are many types of kinyanim which the Torah recognizes as effective. Today we'll just discuss a couple of them, time permitting. First is kesef. This is the most fundamental type of acquisition, money. If I pay for an object with cash, or sometimes even with other merchandise, the Torah sees this as an effective way of acquiring the desired object. Another type of kinyan is called shtar, which means document. If a legal document is written up attesting to the transaction, that is an effective kinyan and the object is acquired. Another type of kinyan, which is primarily by real estate, is known as chazaka, which literally means strength, but is a reference to when a person shows manual ownership of the land he is about to acquire. So for example, he would break down a wall or set up a door and lock it. Those would be ways to show his ownership on the land, and the Torah recognizes that as a kinyan, and thereby the real estate now goes to the buyer.
All right. Easy peasy. Matters of Mashiach. When the Jewish people sought to construct the golden calf, Aaron told them to take their wives' and daughters' gold jewelry. He knew that the women would refuse, and he had hoped that that would end the matter. Indeed, the women did refuse, saying, "You want to construct an idol and an image which is an abomination and has no power to redeem? We will not listen to you." The Holy One, blessed be He, rewarded the women in this world and the world to come. In this world, they observe the new moon as a greater festival than men. And in the world to come, they are destined to be renewed, like the moon. Today, women enjoy the same rights and opportunities as men in many areas. This departure from social norms lasting thousands of years is a forerunner of Mashiach, when the role of women will be renewed just like the moon. While true in general, this especially applies to areas of Torah and mitzvahs as we approach the era of Mashiach. Women must renew their commitment to Yiddishkeit and their efforts to strengthen Yiddishkeit, because their involvement is critical and crucial to the coming of Mashiach. And now, let's bring some heaven down to earth. There are those who take all things of heaven and find they can't live. There are those who chase all things of earth. Their life is not worth it. Heaven desires the earth, and the earth is lost without heaven. Make your life a marriage of the two, heaven and earth, lovers that never part. You will find peace, not wisdom. Love it. Absolutely. All right. Come to me on social media. The Actors Rabbis groups at Clubhouse or Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Telegram, Twitter, WhatsApp, YouTube, or theactorsrabbi.com. Baruch ato Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam boirei nefashos rabois v'chesroinan al kol ma sheborasa lachayos bohem nefesh kol chai baruch chai ha'olamim. I thank you so much for being here. Thank you to my Patreon sponsors, Esper Riddle, Tarzan Orchids, Dina Dina, Racha, Avi in the UK, and Vaera, our brand new donor, Reza, I believe from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. All right. If you'd like to become a Patreon sponsor, go to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi. Or if you'd just like to contribute a little bit to us, go to patreon.com/theactorsrabbi. Or go to breakfastwithelli.live/tipjar, because that's where we would use your help the best. All right? It is Thursday. It is Rosh Chodesh Shevat. Do something special today. We're going to the circus tonight. I know, the Big Apple Circus. I'm very excited about it. I like the Big Apple Circus. Go out and do something nice, something good for someone today. In the words of Rabbi Isaac Hamler, have affection for a fellow, and Hashem will have affection for you. Do kindness for a fellow. Hashem will be kind to you. Draw a fellow close, and Hashem will draw you close to him. Make it a great and glorious day. Be the reason someone smiles. And we're going to go with Misha Beirach today. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful song by a very, very talented young man. So enjoy this. I will see you, God willing, tomorrow. Love you all.
אבותינו, אברהם, יצחק ויעקב, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו והרי אלוהינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה, באוויר, באוויר ובים, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, ייתן אדוני את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, וישלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב,